How's it going, my WBE people? Dr. Slacking, the Slacking Doctor, back with the Week 12 weekly recap for the Shield division of the WBE, and I'm hoping that later on in the show, my co-host Jacob, as always, will be taking over. However, this week we are having to record separately again. A lot of delayed games as it happens. 2 games only went up today, being Friday. I think one of them literally went up 25 minutes before I was recording this, so yeah, pretty down to the wire this week with the games and stuff, which made it very difficult for us to schedule recording together. Obviously, we prefer to do that, but hopefully you guys understand that we just want to try and cover as many games as we can. I can't even guarantee 100% that Jacob is going to be able to record his 2 games that he's got for this week. So it's possible, if you look at this video and it's 10 to 15 minutes long, that it's just me covering 3 of the games, but I figured that was better than having no kind of coverage at all for the Shield division this week. There were still some fantastic matches that I have to talk about here, so I just didn't want you guys to go without anything, but hopefully my co-host will be taking over later in the video. We'll just have to wait and see. You guys should already know by the length of this one that you're looking at. But without wasting any of your time, let's jump into the first game that I had to cover this week, as the Melbourne Rotoms took on the New York Noibats. Cybertron slowly catching up with the games that he was kind of behind on. Unfortunately, his side of this game has not gone up as of the time of me recording this. Obviously, he was delayed greatly by being one of the hosts at the World Championships and everything else, completely understandable. So yeah, it's sad, but we've only got Nate's side of this game, but I mean, that is nothing to sniff at, because Nate's side of this game was fantastic. Really enjoyable match, as the New York Noibats did emerge the 4-0 victor, and I wanted to talk about this one at the beginning for a couple of reasons, really. One, this was, in my opinion, Nate's best performance of the season. He brought a nasty plot Lucario to this game, which was, as you can see, able to pick up 4 KOs, cleaning up the late game. Nasty plotting on the switch into Slowbro, Dark pulsing down the Slowbro, nasty plotting again on the Blissey that could only hit it with a seismic toss, and at +4 being able to vacuum wave the Blissey for a 2-hit KO, vacuum wave the Rotom Heat for a KO after Rock's damage brought it down to only about 30%, and vacuum wave the Kartana for a KO as well. So it was able to pick up quite a few KOs in this game. I think it also picked up one before that. I'm trying to think what the other KO was picked up. Oh no, that's all 4. Yeah, that's right. And then it was the Hydreigon and the Thunderous Eye that picked up the other KOs. The double sort of setup spam of Lucario with Nasty Plot plus Bulk Up Thundy Eye with the Z Fly Tech was really effective in this match, kind of hitting everything really hard. Aaron played pretty aggressively with his Rotom Heat, going for Scuffed Volt Switch on the Thunderous, which I think may have forced him into a sack a little bit, where maybe he could have picked up an Overheat KO. I'm not quite sure on the damage rolls it might have come down to, but it was definitely interesting. I think it was a max HP Thunderous on Nate's side, so I think potentially it could have taken a Scarf Overheat. But yeah, really effective kind of double setup spam from Nate here, just being able to punch a huge hole through Aaron's team. But I have to give credit to Aaron, as I thought he played his Kartana a lot better this game. It's been one of the ones that I've, once or twice, been slightly critical of how he's played it. I don't think he's used it aggressively enough. I don't think he's used it early enough. But this game, he was basically, every time he went into Slowbro, he was then always doubling back out into Kartana, predicting things like the Sylveon, the Hydreigon, and whatever else to come in. I was shocked to see that the Kartana was actually slower than the Hydreigon, and it wasn't a Scarf Hydreigon, so not sure what Kartana spread he was running there, but that was really fascinating to see. But in general, I just thought he plays Kartana better this week, and it was just unfortunate that he had nothing to deal with a Nasty Plot Lucario. That thing just absolutely tore his team apart once Conkeldurr went down, and he did have to kind of sack the Conkeldurr earlier on in the game to a combination of the Thunderous and Hydreigon. It did die to a critical hit from the Thunderous's superpower, but I don't think ultimately it was going to be so low. I think it was an Assault Vest set. It had no form of recovery. I don't think it was ever really getting back up to a range of health where it could take on the Lucario anyway. Mach Punch might have been nice as a deterrent, so the crit definitely did hurt in that sense, but yeah, I don't know. I felt like he was in the back in this game, and he probably should never have risked the Conkeldurr to the crit with that Lucario being able to put in so much work against his team. Now, the second reason that I wanted to talk about this game is because I kind of noticed that I like to read through the comments and stuff and see how people are reacting to the games, see you guys enjoying the games. And there was one comment in particular on Nate's side of the game, well, that's the only side that's gone up so far, that I thought was really unfair watching this match. There was a comment saying that he had choked the game so many times, the guy was surprised he was able to win it. I really didn't feel like that was a fair comment on Nate's side. You know, we do try to be as critical as we can be in these videos. We like to kind of say where players can improve. I think constructive criticism is welcomed by even the very best players. But I don't think things like like that are necessary, and I just don't think it was true. I don't think Nate played badly at all. I think that he set up his Thunderous at the right moment to be a real pain. I think when you win 4-0, I mean, it's a convincing win against a decent player. I don't think you can choke that many times and still win 4-0. So yeah, I don't know. For what it's worth, guys, I know most of you aren't doing that, but I just don't think those kind of comments are necessary. And at the end of the day, just because these coaches have a YouTube presence and have an audience and stuff doesn't mean that they're not real people, and that if Nate sees that, it's not gonna be slightly painful to read. So I don't know, a bit less of that for me. But regardless, let's move on. Nate played fantastically, fully deserved his win, and yeah, I don't think anything should be taken away from the way he played and the way he prepped. That Lucario set was just fantastic, and it proved it in this game. So moving on to the second game I have to cover here, we have the Durham Dragons taking on the Chicago Cubs. Now, having spoken about fantastic prep on Nate's side, we have some prep to criticize here on Leo's side. Not in terms of the sets were fine, but he basically just didn't build his team himself, and as far as I'm aware, didn't even look at the team massively before he got into the game, from the fact that he didn't know what sets he had on a lot of things. So completely understand. He kind of explained that he feels that he's locked for playoffs now, and so just isn't really interested in how these games go, given that he thinks that Elliott is going to make playoffs as well. He would rather not reveal too much, and so he just had someone pass him a team. I understand that, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't affect your performance, and it definitely did in this game. I thought Leo struggled. It looked like he was always going to be threatened by late game Scolipede once he got the trick scarf from the Rotom fan going onto his Muckalola, and Alola Muck was getting locked into things. It was a really tough situation for him because it just allowed Elliott to find a kind of setup window that otherwise I don't think he would have had. I think actually the early to mid game, Leo was on top, Trick Room Reuniclus putting in some work, letting him get rocks up with Cradilly, things like that. I think he was in a pretty good spot earlier on, but maybe just a little bit of sloppiness. He did say he thought it could have been Trick Scarf Rotom, and maybe he had to avoid that, but in the end, I think it was, again, another bit of fantastic prep on Elliott's side that actually came through, as he ran the sub Ayapapa Baton Pass Scolipede. So he was able to just sub down until he got to +4 or 5 speed, and then Baton Pass out into the Mega Garchomp while the Alola Muck was choice locked into Fire Punch. I do think maybe there could have been some counterplay on Leo's side to that. I'm trying to think of what he still had live. I think he still had things like the Cradilly alive, for example, that maybe could have come in, or the Mega Lopunny maybe could have come in and been able to break the sub from the Scolipede, and basically get more damage on Mega Garchomp when it was Baton Passed into. I think the fact that Alola Muck was just stuck on the field trapped into Fire Punch, which gave Garchomp 2 Hone Claws when that thing came in, yeah, I think it just really put Leo in a position where he couldn't do a lot. And I have to say, sub Baton Pass Ayapapa Berry Scolipede into Hone Claws Dragon Rush Mega Garchomp, that is heat. You don't see that very often. I don't remember that. I don't think I've ever seen Dragon Rush on Wi-Fi. So yeah, really cool prep by Elliott, and definitely I feel deserving of the W here just on prep alone. But like I say, it wasn't like Leo played badly, especially in the early to mid game. It was just a late game where, I don't know, I felt like he had to try and do something different to pressure that Garchomp when it did come in. But unfortunately he wasn't able to do that. So, and I can understand as well, if he didn't have Baton Pass on the Scolipede, then he didn't want to just give Scolipede a free substitute. So there's that as well. But yeah, I don't know. I felt like he would put himself in a bit of a lose-lose situation there once the Muck got tricked. So it was definitely tough for him. Now, moving on to the final game I have to cover here, we have the Sin City Sizzlers taking on the San Diego Chimchargers. For me, I've said this a lot in recent weekly recaps, a surprise package of the season in Patty Trills for me, taking on one of the most established players in the format in MV and his San Diego Chimchargers, who do emerge the 4-0 victors here, and I really thought this was such a kind of a dominant win by MV. He was just in a brutal control of this match, to the point where he didn't necessarily say it quite like that in his commentary, but some of these plays were flexes. Some of these plays were 100% flexes. Things like attacking with Victini instead of protecting because he predicted the Seismitoad to go for rocks. Just these little things where MV could have made a safe play that didn't lose him anything, but he made the risky play because he clearly felt he was so far ahead and had such a handle on his opponent that it was time to flex. And I mean, that's part of the game we play, right? It's all good entertainment, and it's no discredit to Patty. He just came up against one of the top players in the format in top form, and MV really showed what he can do here. Sub Toxic Protect Victini. We've had the debate around Sub Toxic Stall earlier in the season. I really don't think that it should be considered stall for starters, but also sometimes it's just a viable strategy, and here MV employed it wonderfully. He left his Registeel in on a Landorus, which to me, this was, he called it out as one of the crucial turns of the game where he double toxicked, basically toxicking the Landorus, predicting it to be choice locked and to not go for Earthquake. It went for knockoff. He was able to get the toxic off. Then he stayed in and clicked toxic again, predicting the Landorus to be choice locked and to pivot into something else and to get a second toxic off, which happened to be the Seismitoad. The reason that this was a crucial turning point in the game, I agree with his analysis of it, is because once this Seismitoad was poisoned, it couldn't spam rocks to keep rocks up against Envy, which meant that Envy could always come in with Rotom Defog. Seismitoad would have to keep taking chip from the toxic, and that basically meant the Togekiss would always be able to come in on Lando's Earthquake, so Lando could never lock itself into Earthquake, and the Ditto was always able to come in on the Incineroar, so the Incineroar couldn't lock into anything either. And it just really put basically Patty in a position where he was just pivoting around, taking toxic after toxic, and it was just stacking up. And without the hazards to pressure Envy, Envy could just keep pivoting so easily with his kind of bulkier build here. So definitely, I agree, the play that changed the match. However, I think it was an outrageous play. I think calling that the Landorus T would be choice locked and staying in with his Registeel twice to double toxic, to my mind, I mean, it worked out, so I'm not going to say it was a bad play by any means, but I didn't understand it in the slightest. At the team preview, I thought Landorus was likely to be Sword Stance Z. I thought, in particular, Sword Stance Rockium or Flyinium had a great matchup, being able to bop something like the Togekiss or even the Rotom. I thought, or maybe even Darkinium with the knockoff. You know, I thought there was any number of sets. He could have been Earthquake, knockoff, Stone Edge, Sword Stance, and he didn't even need the Z potentially. I don't know. I thought Sword Stance Lando made a ton of sense in this game. I suppose it fears the Ditto copying it, but Ditto more than likely being scarfed means that it can't lock into anything to hit Lando too hard or hit the rest of his team too hard. Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was just an outrageous play by Envy, and it worked out perfectly, so who am I to criticize it? But even after he stayed in with the Registeel to click Toxic, to then assume that it was choice locked and switched out, I mean, yeah, outrageous, absolutely outrageous, but it worked out for him, and kudos to him. I thought his Victini bring was brilliant. I thought it just did a ton of work in this game. Its speed tier being really effective, being able to take things on. Drapion, it was a fantastic Mega Alakazam check. Mega Alakazam going for Substitute, and then Focus Blast into Drapion, doing next to no damage, and then Drapion going for the knockoff the first turn to break the sub. Pursuit second turn, basically not wanting to reveal the Pursuit for turn 1 to encourage the Megazam to feel safe to switch out. Just very good mind games from Envy. I think it was kind of expected by most people watching, but I understand why Patty made those plays still. All in all, really, really entertaining game. If you want to see Envy kind of at the peak of his powers, I felt like this was a good example of it, where every kind of brave call he made, every bit of heat he brought really paid off. So, those are the 3 games that I have to cover today. Like I said, hopefully my co-host, Jacob, as always, will be taking over from me now. However, you guys, as I say, will already know if he is or isn't. Regardless, hope you've enjoyed this week of the WBE. It's been fantastic. I believe we only have one more left before playoffs kick off, so that's super, super exciting to see who make those final playoff spots and to see how playoffs go. I genuinely cannot wait. So thank you so much for loafing around with me, guys, and I'll catch you again next time.